What is going on, everybody? Anon here, and happy Sunday. It is that time to go through distribution updates for Pokemon Magic and a bunch of other indie TCGs. So we have a little bit of a light week this week. We're kind of in no man's land where there's some products that were supposed to come out, but they were delayed, and some other products that were not quite to the point of getting full allocations or any information at all. So I'm going to go through these one at a time, and we'll blow through them. So, Flesh and Blood. I do want to talk about this because I've mentioned this multiple times, and it looks like we finally hit the breaking point. So, going back to Rosetta and the Hunted, all of a sudden, Flesh and Blood boxes got really hot, and everybody and their brother started to order them. Now, high seas, the allocations were super tight. The product did reasonably well. Really not a whole lot to complain about. And then here comes Super Slam. So with Super Slam, it's been a little bit of comedy of errors, and I've been reasonably vocal with the fact that I don't like the LSS management team. Quite honestly, I think they're incompetent. All they do is destroy product. They have I don't want to say they have no respect for the folks that buy their product, but quite honestly, I don't think they do. I don't think they give a shit. And they have horrible policies where every policy with organized play, in effect, and I don't think it's necessarily designed to do this, but in effect, destroys the value of prior year sealed product. So you don't have any legacy ownership in the game. You just have what's happening in the meta at this point in time, and nobody else really gives a shit because all the old products have degraded in price substantially. So Super Slam, they've effectively kind of killed the bubble in Flesh and Blood, and it's been on somewhat of a common of errors. So the entire set was spoiled somewhere in Europe, so the hype was kind of dead. It came over in a couple waves. It was a little clunky. The booster boxes did not perform well. Now, I think they're selling for like $90 now or whatever. But then all of a sudden, we had this weird scenario where they seem to have changed their policy and didn't tell anybody until after the fact. So they reprinted a bunch of high dollar cards that are playable, which they have been known to do. But they basically came out, and there's actually a TCG Player article, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that said that Flesh and Blood is making concerted effort to get the price of playable cards down. Well, what that basically means is they're going to print the shit out of the cards. They are giving into the game piece army. Again, this is just my opinion. And the high value cards in the sets are going to be there at release when there's demand. And then they're just going to tail off over time. And if they don't tail off, they're just going to reprint them into the ground. And the problem is the cards that are generics, meaning they're not assigned to a specific hero or hero class, those tend to retain a little bit of value because the cards themselves are not going to become obsolete because a hero is effectively living legend out or banned from organized play. But the hits that are hero or class based, they're all going to get annihilated. So SummerSlam, again, the boxes came down to $90. The sell-through rate was quite honestly horrid. I have most of my boxes pre-sold because I will not take a risk on the game. It doesn't make any sense. Fool me once, shame on you, or shame on me. Yeah, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not gonna let these guys screw me over a second time after the absolute disaster they did, basically scamming everybody on Monarch. So, and then they were mad at everybody else for calling them on their bullshit, which is even more hilarious. So, the set after Super Slam is going to be an absolute disaster. Nobody's going to touch it, and it's one of those games where at some point it's just going to start churning people because it's super competitive and people are going to burn out, especially as things start to slow down here a little bit in the economy, especially in the lower portion of it. So I just wanted to mention that because I think the challenge is so many stores who have nothing to do with Flesh and Blood had purchased the boxes because it was free money, but they didn't really have a means to sell it. And TCG Player and eBay don't sell a whole lot of sealed product because people don't buy sealed product. They don't buy sealed product because they know they're going to get their face ripped off by the company when they reprint stuff, or cards of value rotate out over time. So that being said, let's move on to the next one. Godzilla. The second set of Godzilla comes out in 2 weeks on the 25th. I have no idea what to think about this. The first set is still selling reasonably well. It's still selling 5 or 6 boxes a day on TCG Player, and the price is like $65. But I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't seen any advertisement about it. So, hopefully it's not just going to die a rapid death here just due to lack of people not knowing anything about it. So, moving on, Gundam. The second Gundam set comes out in 2 weeks, and nobody knows a damn thing about it, which is absolutely hilarious. Nobody that I've spoken to from the 4 majors who carry it have seen any allocations. They don't know what's going on. They think the product is coming in on time, but they're not quite sure. So, so we'll see. I believe the entire set's been spoiled by now. But I have not paid any attention to organized play. I don't know if it's good, if it's bad. It's just new product. I will mention that the ultimate starters, I think, I guess the orders are already out. Yeah, these are just the Gundam assemble. So never mind. I was going to say they have these special starter decks that are coming out in December or January. December, January? No, probably February, March. But it looks like the order date was a couple weeks ago. So never mind on that. I did ask the question. Oh, here's Dual Impact. So this is a second box right here. That's supposed to come out in 12 weeks, 12 days. And as of now, I don't believe any distro has the product. That doesn't mean it doesn't show up tomorrow at the dock. But, again, the product is coming in from, I believe, Japan is where it's printed. So all bets are off. I have not heard, and I had mentioned before that one distributor told me that he had seen an order for an additional wave. This was like 3 or 4 weeks ago of New Type Rising, but it doesn't look like that was either that's already in and it's dispersed, or it's just completely been delayed off the books at this point. So it looks like New Type Rising is done at this point. So I'm not sure there's more of that coming. I know Southern Hobby here had it up for sale with the Gundam Assemble that's supposed to come out in January, February, but then it disappeared off the website, and I've heard nothing about it. So I'm assuming it's a no deal at this point. Hololive, the second set came out, I think this week or next week. I don't carry it. I don't have anything to do with it, but I did want to mention it. Riftbound. So we have all of our allocations for Riftbound. All of you guys who are stores out there, you should have them as well. I was pleasantly surprised from the perspective of my expectations with our OP distributor were pretty high, and they were within line of where I thought they would be. And my expectations with our non-OP vendors were pretty low, and quite honestly, they came in at or a little bit above where I thought they would be. Much unlike Gundam, where we got almost nothing from the non-OP distributors, and I understand that's kind of the direction of Bandai. But then we got a reasonable chunk from our OP distributor. So this, I believe, comes out on the 31st, so it should be shipping in the next week or two. It's going to be really interesting to see how much product is out there because my understanding is the supply of this is, in total, it's going to be similar to Gundam, again, just back in the napkin math, but it is coming out in 2 waves. So the first wave is coming out at release. The second wave is supposedly coming out the first week of December. And if you guys know anything about UVS, well, this is by far the largest product that they have ever managed distribution for. So, we'll see what the waved approach does. I know Gundam came out in 2 waves as well. So we'll see. Let's see. Moving on. I do want to talk about Sorcery just for a second. So Sorcery Gothic, it's carried by PhD and Southern. The tentative release date, and tentative is my word, is 12/5 because these guys have never met a deadline that they can't miss. The set's 440 cards. Their model is one set per year. So they have to sell a shitload of this. And, just back of the napkin math again, they have to sell about 100,000 boxes for it to make sense. So my understanding, and PhD is a much larger distributor than Southern for these guys, is there should be somewhere around 80,000 boxes hitting distribution here for release. And, obviously Team Covenant handles a lot of these sales. So I'm guessing the print run of this product is somewhere around 150,000 boxes, which, while that does seem like an astronomically high number, when you factor in the set of cards being 440 cards, it doesn't strike me as nearly as obscene as Arthurian Legends. And I did a video specifically on this, and it almost feels to me like they sat down with a budget and said, "Well, we have to sell. We have to make $5 million at least per year per set. So let's back solve into the number of boxes we have to sell, what we think the margin is going to be, and then we can back solve how big the set has to be, so people don't get diluted by just opening boxes and getting the same shit over and over again," which was the problem with Arthurian Legends, because quite honestly, the set was an absolutely horrible design. Now, the cards were cool, but the set was so small and they printed so much, it was just, you get so many copies of the same shit. And that's where that set failed. So just the only reason I'm even talking about this is because I have a reasonable estimation of what the amount of this coming to distribution is. Now, again, I think 150,000 boxes, there's probably 200,000 boxes worldwide, which in and of itself is a lot, because that's effectively more than what I think is printed for Gundam New Type Rising, and also more than what I think is being printed for League of Legends. But again, this set is 3 times the size of either one of those. So, look, it's either going to be a reasonable success, and it's like, okay, well, let's keep this around for another set, or it's just going to die a quick death here. It does look like the pre-sales on this have been okay. It hasn't been Metazoo death, new Metazoo. It also didn't sell out in 2 days, and it's nowhere close to being sold out as of right now. And that's with the smaller of the two. So anyway, moving on. Weiss. Azure Lane is supposed to come out in 2 weeks. I have heard nothing from anybody in distribution yet. Now, I know this is a small one, but what I do want to mention, meaning this is a small, inconsequential game for most distributors, what I do want to mention is I'm sure there are going to be allocations for the big guys. The only reason they're allocated is because the bigger stores tend to not order on time, and the folks that do follow the rules get screwed. But either way, I have a feeling that this is not going to perform well from the start, because there is a lot of it ordered. But if you look at Nikki and all of the 6,000 boxes that hit TCG Player when it was released, there's about 500 boxes left until we're back in the high $70 per box. And for boxes that cost anywhere between $37 and $51, depending on who you buy them from, that's a pretty good place to be. And it's actually fairly liquid, and it's selling through. So, we'll see if this ships on time. I don't know quite yet. I have not heard from the largest distributor, who is not one of the 4 majors, but I'm sure I'll get that information this week. Moving on. Let's hit Pokemon first. So, I did get notification that my first distributor did receive their second wave of Mega Evolutions 1 on late last week. So I should have it by Tuesday. I believe freight is working tomorrow. It's one of those holidays that's a federal holiday, but it's sort of kind of not a real holiday. Unless you're Canadian, then it's Thanksgiving. So well, I didn't know there were pilgrims in Canada, but hey, I could be wrong. So it looks like that product will be coming in this week into next week, and then be able to ship out, which is awesome. Mega Evolutions 2. I have gotten all of my allocations except for 2 at this point, and it is almost exactly the same as Mega Evolutions 1. I I am probably less than 3 cases higher for booster boxes and a couple of cases of ETBs and probably 2 cases of bundles more. Uh, and that is in total across everybody. If you guys are not seeing that, I would call your rep because there's either something incorrect or you're reading it wrong. I know one of the distributors posted 60% of the allocation. They did not blast that information out. So unless you expected that to come or your rep told you, you're probably looking at your number and you're like, what the hell happened? It's just because you're reading it wrong. And that may be that may or may not be the distributor that we're looking at in the screen here. Yeah, no big deal. Other than that, the only thing I do want to mention is the Great Tusk and iron some shit. The Paldean Fates EX box. None of the distributors that I work with have heard anything about that coming to distribution. It looks like that may actually be a Walmart exclusive. However, I have a very hard time believing that if they're reprinting packs of Paldean Fates 3 months, 4 months before it rotates out, because that release date is December 5th, that there isn't some sort of product coming to distribution. And no, I don't count the 3-pack tech stickers, and I also don't count the 10 or so Paldean Fates booster bundle displays that we've gotten across multiple distributors. Now, those could have come in as a secondary item. It's certainly not enough to be a normal, reasonable allocation, because quite honestly, it was far less than what we got for ETBs for Surging Sparks and for Twilight with that reprint. And I have a good idea of how many of those came in as well. So the other thing I do want to mention is we did get notice on Friday that it looks like booster bundle cases of Prismatic Evolutions hit distribution again. They are the 25 count cardboard boxes. They are not the European 10 count fancy displays that everybody's going nuts over. So I'm sure you guys will see that at some point. Now, all of these ancillary items I'm talking about, some distributors push them out right away. Some of them wait for sales and then they just list them live on the website. Others are lagging a little bit. Some of the bundles that I'm expecting to come in over the next couple weeks is going to have some stuff that I've had for 4 to 6 weeks from some other distributors. So it really just comes down to how quickly they're moving internally. Because look, this is a really busy time of year. This is a rush until Thanksgiving, and then everything starts to slow down. And quite honestly, there's no rush to move this stuff because it's all sold out in 3 seconds anyway. So that's Pokemon, and let's touch on Magic very quickly. Let's see. Not much going on. Lorwyn, we've spoken about all of those preliminary allocations came out, and quite honestly, they're pretty good. It does look like they're really pushing some of the standard play in here. Now we do have commander decks. Don't confuse those with the pre-constructed decks. The commander decks there's only 2, so it's the same setup as Aether Drift and Edge of Eternities. Hopefully that's not the Kiss of Death. Real quickly, Spider-Man. Not much to talk about with Spider-Man itself, but the gift bundles are shipping this week, so we will have all of those. Amazon is selling them like crazy for $99, I think, per. Let me click on here. It just says login. I think the MSRP on this is $99. So, if you want these, Amazon's probably the place to get them right now. It's going to be really interesting to see, because if the promo in the boxes here is not worth anything, it's going to be a shit show. These things are going to be erased to zero. Now, one thing on Spider-Man I do want to mention, If you guys do any toy crossovers, we did have the Hasbro Marvel Legends that Southern carried and ACD carried 2 of the 4. The actual promos from those, and I believe those were like $32 from distro, but MSRP is $39. The margin on toys is just it's a horrible game. But the actual cards themselves are selling for like $40 to $45 each. So it's pretty interesting. And right now, everything is shipped. So we got a couple cases of each. We're sitting on them. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm kind of the mindset that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to fire sell anything with Spider-Man unless you have to, because with the next Marvel set coming out in June, they're going to start hyping the crap out of it in March. So we're less than 6 months away from having that next push. So that's probably the hype wave that we're all going to want to ride to start moving some of the Spider-Man stuff. So let's see, where are we going to go next? Okay, Avatar. So Avatar, not much coming out yet. It does look like they're going to have the Neon Chase cards in the collector boxes. I am so not even lukewarm on that, quite honestly. I did a video last night. If you're interested in seeing how Wizards has gone back to their old shitty ways of destroying value for people buying their cards, take a look at it. One of the folks in Discord built the thumbnail, which is Cynthia Williams as Godzilla smoking a cigarette and breathing fire on Timmy from South Park, dressed as the 4 Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, and Avatar. With a little chocobo also getting torched. So I was cracking up about that one, but I think it's actually a pretty good video because I go through, all the different changes, like pulling the commander sample packs out of commander displays. And I had 2 Wizards of the Coast employees tell me specifically, yeah, we took those out because it was slowing down our production. So they're taking the collectability out of the product so they can print more, which is, I've been saying this forever, and it's just what they do. So last item here, the Final Fantasy holiday boxes. I've gotten a couple allocations of these. It looks like they're reasonably healthy. I also did a video on this and the print runs because I do have a good idea of the numbers, and I'll just give you off the top of my head. So if you look at any standard set or Spider-Man Edge Fraternities Tarkir, if you look at the number of commander or the collector boxes each distributor is getting, the Chocobo bundle is about 60% of that number, and these are just general numbers. It just gives you some idea. The scene boxes are about 32%. The Japanese Chocobo bundles are, oh my god, it's like 20%, and then the video game decks, they probably printed 15,000 of these to 25,000 of these total. There aren't a whole lot of them out there. That is it's like 12%, 12.5%, like an eighth. So, this is kind of reskinned garbage, in my opinion. It's a case of 4 decks of the same damn thing, which is just reskinned cards. Quite honestly, I am significantly disappointed with this bundle. It's a lazy product. And quite honestly, nobody gives a shit about scene boxes. They're cool to look at, but that's what you have YouTube for. Nobody's going to buy them. Nobody's going to put them anywhere. And there's so many play packs that have gone into this. I think I did an estimation last night of just what I believe to be going through distribution is somewhere between 110,000 boxes and like 130,000 play boxes of play packs. And there's probably 40 to 50% of these going directly through Amazon, direct to consumer. So the reason why we haven't gotten Final Fantasy play boxes is they've printed 250,000 boxes worth of play that they're pushing into this product, and they're cramming down everybody's throat, which is, look, it's not the worst business decision in the world, but the single prices in Final Fantasy are just going to get absolutely crushed, and they got to hit their Q4. So, it kind of is what it is. So, anyway, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and have a good night.